I know you guys have had a lot of information, and this topic is very exciting for me and my counterpart, Rick, because we've been working on this tirelessly. So I'm really excited about our presentation tonight. So diversifying your Rotary Club. Oh, sorry, I thought I had the clicker. Next. All right, so our District 6960 has done a series or seminar of women in Rotary. And I felt like Sylvia Whitlock, this quote really resonated with me, and just it captured the essence of Rotarians. If you have a problem that is unsolvable, you just call a Rotarian. It's just like Andy putting this group together of saying, hey, this is what I need. This is what we need. Just get it done. And there's no questions asked. We all showed up, and we're going to show out for our districts and for our Rotary clubs. But given is the ultimate experience, and what I've learned from Rotary is that there is no limit to the generosity of individuals who find a problem that seems so impossible to solve, but can find solutions. And that is with our time, talent, and treasures. And all the other presentations from the foundation to membership, it really captured how we can give in such a diverse way, how we can give of ourselves, and how we do give of ourselves, especially since this is like Andy pointed out, a volunteer organization. So it's really shows a commitment on all of us, and it really shows who we are as people and how much we want to impact our communities far beyond. So I felt like this quote really resonated with us. So a little background about me. I'm Nadej Pierre. I am the district diversity chair, but during my day job, I work for the Lee County Tax Collector's Office here, and I am the community relations coordinator, and I sit on the FGCU alumni board as their diversity chair and community outreach chair. And I also sit on the mayor's diversity committee. And that committee pretty much helped consult him on issues facing diversity within the city of Fort Myers. So I've really had a lot of experience of not only talking about diversity, but being involved as a change agent as far as policies and looking at policies that may not be all inclusive, to include all members, or policies that may hinder certain members' entry to entry-level jobs, or other things that impact not just our workforce, but education, just our whole quality of life. So I was really excited when Rotary decided to put this together, because I think Rotary internationally is such a diverse organization that we need to work, like Ms. Deb said, here at home. We need to fix our problems at home before we can help anyone else. So I think this is a very good initiative to at least get the conversation started. But I am really excited about my counterpart, because he is a rock star, and I've learned so much working alongside of him with this presentation. I feel like I've known him my whole life, and I haven't even met him in person, y'all. So, so I'm really excited to let Mr. Rick Maxey introduce himself and tell you all the amazing things that he has done, not just for his district, but for the whole state of Florida, y'all. Like, y'all need to get excited, because I am.
Thank you, Nadej. And I want you guys to know it cost me a lot of money to get her to say that. I'm Rick Maxey, and I'm with the Lakeland Rotary Club here in District 6890, and also the District Diversity Chair. Now, I've been around in diversity for a long time. In the early 90s, I was with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and I was responsible for the training of all the officers in the state, law enforcement, corrections, and probation. There were about 72,000 of them. And we had 39 schools around the state, 400 agencies. And in the early 90s, Florida was suffering through some of what's happening around the country between law enforcement and communities of color. One of the things leaders of the state decided was that our officers needed to be made aware how to deal with people from cultures and backgrounds that are different than them. And so I was asked to lead an effort to develop the state's first diversity program for criminal justice. And every officer would have to take it. Every incoming officer would have to take it. And the idea was that when you know more about the people that you deal with, you do better. You have better relationships, and we could reduce some of what was happening in the state. So I went on a statewide tour to hold public meetings with legislators, law enforcement people, and the community to talk about how we could do better as a state. I'm also currently the Chief Diversity Officer for Florida Polytechnic University. It's the state's 12th public university. It began in 2012. I was the 6th person that they hired. In addition to diversity, I'm also the chief lobbyist for the university at the state and federal levels. And I'm responsible for economic development for the university. And that means attracting companies to our area, to the state of Florida. Currently, we are working to get a company from overseas who we're close to getting to build a $35, $40 million building near our campus. One of the things I want to say is what is diversity? You hear a lot of talk about it these days, but not many people sit down and think about what it really means. To the right on this slide, you'll see what we call the diversity wheel, and it lists a lot of the different ways you can think about diversity. And these are things that each club will have to review and decide which of these are applicable to their club. So Rotary itself has diversity as a major component of what we stand for. And it means that we welcome people from all cultures, backgrounds, religions, people who make up this world, who make up our communities. We want them to be Rotarians because they bring to our organization and thus our ability to help different ways of approaching problems, different resource pools that we can tap, and different solutions that we may not think of. And we don't just want them to be in the club, we want to include them in the club's operation. And so we want them to feel like they are welcomed, that we respect them, that we value what they bring to the table. And I'll tell you a secret to diversity. A lot of times organizations will bring in different people, and that's all they do. They want to be able to tick off the mark that says we're diverse, but not much happens to show that those people are welcomed, they're respected, and they're valued. And that's what we want to focus on tonight. How do you make sure that when people come to your club, regardless of where they came from, that they feel like they belong? Because if they don't, they're not going to stay long. And then the other side of diversity is equity. And once we have them feeling good, we also have to involve them in the operation of the club. We want to ensure that they get opportunities to lead. They get opportunities to work on projects that are meaningful to the organization and to them and to the people that we serve. And if you look at the importance of diversity, you have to look at all three of these. You have to look at bringing in people who are different than what the typical culture of the club is. You have to make sure that those people feel welcome and valued and respected. And you have to involve them in being a part of the leadership and being involved in what the club does and how it does it. Because typically in most clubs, you get the same people doing the same things year after year. And that's something that we'll have to change. So why care about it? Well, for one, it's the top priority for Rotary International. And a lot of the information we're going to provide to you today came from Rotary International, rotary.org. And I put here the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement from Rotary, which says we'll cultivate a diverse, equitable, inclusive culture in which people from underrepresented groups have greater opportunities to participate as members and as leaders. Okay. That's important. But what's really important is that it's the right thing to do. And in my 3 years in Rotary, the one thing I have picked up, if nothing else, is that we are about doing the right thing. So our community and representing our community and being involved with our community is the right thing to do. And that's why we care about diversity. That's why we care about who's in our clubs. That's why we want to make sure that we involve them in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and that their voices are heard. We want to listen to different ways of doing things. Tell you a quick story. We have members who represent various religions. And I have been told by some members that they feel isolated as a member of Rotary because all of our religious views tend to be Christian. And I'm personally a Christian, but I recognize that there are people who aren't, that there are people with other religious views, but we have to be open to welcome them into our clubs. They are a part of Rotary International. They are part of us. And so we need to be willing to make sure that they feel represented.
Okay, so a question I like to ask clubs is, does your club mirror your community? Because diversity is not a one size fit all. People get uncomfortable when we start talking about diversity because we've been programmed to think it's just about race, as opposed to looking at your community and your club to see what does diversity look like for your club, and what does it mean? Like Gerard was saying, it might mean you're a club full of attorneys and you need to diversify by adding more professions. Or like Andy was saying, you might be a club of the good old boys club, and you need to include ways to include females and other genders and other ethnic backgrounds. So diversity looks really different for each district and each club. So does your club mirror your community? And if that's a no, what can you do? Like getting demographics from the chambers and connecting with other groups, getting the data from growrotary.com, and looking at socioeconomics, like what are you trying to attract? And what do you want your club to be? And the bigger question is your club ready and prepared to be inclusive and have diversity? Because like Rick was saying, it's not enough just to say, okay, I have a Hispanic and I have an African American and we have a couple women, we're diverse, but you're not inclusive in including them in conversation and making them feel welcome and getting ideas from them and giving them roles and responsibilities to make sure that they grow in Rotary, not just in friendship, but professionally. They might have other professional goals. And I feel like Rotary would be a safe place for them to figure that out, but they need opportunities. And also using the Rotary survey to gather clubs' professional data, using DACDB to say, okay, here are the professions, doing almost like a club assessment within your own club to saying, hey, this is where we're at and this is where we need to be. Here's what diversity looks like in our club, in our community, in our district, and creating opportunities to attract other ethnic backgrounds. If your community mirrors that. If it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't, then you have to build on the other strengths in the diversity wheel that you have. Maybe it's attracting younger professionals, so the older generation can mentor them. Maybe it's getting more women. Maybe it's getting more teachers. So you have a lot to play with in the wheel of diversity. But I feel like a lot of clubs and a lot of people in society in general just kind of gets boxed in the race based for diversity, but diversity is so much more than that. And clubs have a huge opportunity to start capitalizing on it and then defining diversity for their club.
So let's look at a few categories. The most obvious, one of the most obvious is race. So what does Florida look like? This information came from the census. 16.9% of our population is Black. 53.2% is white, 26.4% is Hispanic, 3% Asian, 2.2% multiracial, and that category is growing. And what it means is that the person who identifies as multiracial has parents who are from different demographic backgrounds. So you could have an Asian father and a white mother, or a Black mother and a Hispanic father, and you want to talk about and recognize both halves of your heritage. And so you don't feel comfortable identifying as one or the other, and you identify as multiracial. And our clubs need to make sure that we start acknowledging that fact, because it's going to be important to making people feel accepted and respected in our clubs. Now, these are gender demographics, and Rotary makes a big deal about women being in the club, and rightfully so, but we still have a ways to go. On the left, those are the numbers for Florida. Women outnumber men by a small percentage, about 52 to 48%. But if you look at Rotary worldwide, only 23% of our membership is female. And then also looked at districts 6960 and 6890 and wanted to show what we look like in the gender comparison, because again, we do have some room for growth in gender, but we do well. And one of the things we do about gender, about women being in the club, is we celebrate it. We talk about the number of women who've been presidents of our club. We celebrate the first woman that came in. We celebrate the value they bring to the club. And the reason I bring that up is because we don't do that with some of the other areas of diversity. So I've been in the club for 3 years. I've never heard anybody talk about the first Black person that came into the club. I never heard anybody talk about Black people adding value to the club. I've never heard discussions about pride in the different religions that we have, the different types of groups that we have. And so what does that say? So if I'm always talking about a specific group as being valuable and we're glad we now have them, what am I to think if I'm not a part of that group? So if I'm not female and religion is how I identify myself, and the fact that you never talk about it, you never recognize it, what am I to think? And I've actually had Rotarians make that complaint to me, and that has always stuck with me. So we want to make sure that when we are passing out accolades and recognition, that we look beyond the obvious and we look at our club makeup, what it is, what we want it to be, and we talk about what we have and we talk about what we want. Because when you do that, the people who are in the club are going to feel closer to the club, and they will spread that word. And people who come to visit will say, oh, wow, I belong here. There are others like me, and if they're not, they're really happy to have me. So that's the point I wanted to make by sharing those two slides. Now, how do you attract diversity? First thing you have to do is understand and accept that people with different backgrounds, coming from different cultures, may have a different value proposition. What is most important to them might be different than what is most important to you. And as Rotary International has shown us, it is very possible and valuable to recognize those differences, not as things that separate us, but as things that bring us together. When you build your house, you don't build your house completely out of 2x4s. That'd be a funny looking house. But you have 2x4s, you have concrete, you have shingles. All of those different things with different values and different strengths come together in the house that you call home. Rotary is our home. And we have to take all of those different aspects, all of those different value propositions, and bring them together to make us stronger. And when we're stronger, we can do more good in the world. And all night, the common theme through everybody's presentation has been the amount of good that Rotary does around the world. You want to stress professional investment. How do we help people to grow? And Nadej spoke to this a moment ago. We have to be aware of different social expectations. When you bring in younger people, you bring in people who have a different expectation on socializing, because we've talked a little bit about the social aspect of Rotary. I mean, they're used to creating and maintaining very strong relationships virtually. So for a lot of young people, socially, they're not doing as badly as we are. And then consider this. If we aren't doing those things, if we aren't bringing in people who are diverse, if we aren't making them feel welcome and respected and valued, they have other places to go. And we don't want them going other places. We want them to be part of Rotary. So there's that competition edge that we need to be aware of, because it brings to mind a fact that still troubles me. I'm in a mixed marriage. My wife's a Kiwanian. And so I'm a good example of what happens when we don't do this properly. I'm still trying to convince her to come over to Rotary, but we'll see about that. So there is competition from other groups that we need to be concerned about. And we need to look at our communication styles and the ways in which we communicate. And it doesn't mean we get rid of what we currently do, but we may need to add to it. Because I work with students 18 to 23 years old. And one of the most difficult things that older people like me suffer with is communicating effectively with the young people at our university. So we need to consider that. And then as I'm talking about age diversity, I wanted to provide you with some information. And this is the current makeup of districts 6890 and 6960. And you can see that if you from that 50 to 70 plus age range, that's where most of our members lie. We aren't going to be here one day, and we need to be building that younger age group into our club so that Rotary continues. And Rotary, like other organizations, overall membership's going down. I took a look at clubs that no longer exist over the last 5 years, looked at membership over the last 5 years. So in addition to it being the right thing, there's a pragmatic and practical reason for being more diverse in the people that we attract.
So professional diversity, using the assessment instruction and instruments within your own club to figure out where you need to be diverse. Like Rick was saying, is it age? Is it gender? Is it economic, socioeconomics? And then going out, what I love Rotary, but what Rotary doesn't do a good job at is going out to other groups, other organizations. We do a good job at bringing a lot of nonprofits in, but we don't go out to tell people about Rotary and what we do and how Rotary can benefit them professionally. As a young professional, I need a safe place to grow my professional skills, my public speaking skills. And Rotary is such a safe place to do that once you get plugged in and you start getting to know the different members. But a lot of Rotary doesn't really tell the benefits other than, oh, you'll have like a second family. It's like, I don't really like the family I have now. I'm not looking for a second one. I'm trying to grow professionally. I'm trying to sharpen my tools and my toolbox so I can be a better professional, a better whatever it is, whatever your goal is. So that for me, someone who's a young professional, having a social life doesn't really excite me because I have a social life right here. I can connect to whomever, wherever, but it's growing those dying skills that you're not taught in college and business school, and how to network properly, and how to ask people for favors. And you learn all that through Rotary, but we're not diverse enough in how we're giving out the information. Making the best use of members' expertise. Rotary does a really good job at that. I mean, when they call you, they know you're good at something. They use it to the maximum, like, whoo. And when you create an environment where you're utilizing your members effectively, you're going out, you're growing, you're telling people about Rotary, but you're also excited. Like, you're not like, oh, come to Rotary because we meet at 7:30 and you can have breakfast. You have to sell them. You're selling Rotary. Like, if you're not excited about your club, don't expect me to show up at 7:30, dog tired, to network with people, because it's not going to happen. So it's not also what you're selling, it's how you're selling it. You have to be excited about the things that you do for your community in your club. You have to be excited about the people in your club, and you really have to sell them, because as Rick was saying, like, you have competition. There's chambers, there's networking groups, there's young professionals, there's alumni groups. Like, their time is valuable, and if you're not utilizing it, if you're not selling them to where they're going to maximize their growth potential or their networking potential, then what is the benefit? Like, I like to ask the question when someone invites me to a club, like, what's in it for me? Like, what do I get out of, other than paying like $800 a year to be a part of this? What else do I get? I get the intrinsic value and doing good for the community, but sometimes, like Rick was saying, that's not everybody's value proposition. Sometimes they're barely making it as young professionals, and they just are looking to grow so that they can be the best that they can be. The giving part of Rotary is almost secondary, but sometimes you barely hear about it when people are attracting new members. You don't hear about all the community projects that you do, all the things that you do worldwide, what the foundation does. Like, $1,000 from a Paul Harris can give like 10 hearing aids to kids in India. Like, you don't hear about those things. So it's hard to get excited about networking with a bunch of old folks, as the data shows. It's not me. It's not me. And when you're utilizing your diverse club's expertise, you're better equipped to do service projects, because you're not going to put someone who's grouchy at the greeting table, because they're going to turn a bunch of people away. You're going to put someone who's bright, me, at the greeting table so they can make everyone feel welcome. And then members are motivated, because it's like you're almost like a machine where every job, every person has value. You've given everyone importance, and then they work harder because they feel part of a network. They feel part of a family. Then it does become like a working family. Like, they're checking up on you when you're not there. When you're late, they're like, hey, where are you? So it works when you not only have diversity, but you've created an environment for everyone to thrive, whether it's the greeter, the person who does the fees, the fining. I mean, all of that is fun when you have a diverse club and everyone feels welcome. And then that's what you're giving out to the people that you're attracting. When I'm selling Rotary, my friends know, to my coworkers, they know I'm passionate about Rotary, for not just for the things that they do for the community, but I'm also like, here's what's in it for you. Like, you get to grow professionally, and you get to meet other people, you get to learn, you get to hear people's different backgrounds, and it's really cool. You should come for breakfast. And then I'm like, oh, and by the way, they also give back to this community. So it makes it more attractive to prospective members, because you're excited about what you do.
And
so,
now
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm too excited.
So there's actually a process for doing the professions assessment, and it's developed by Rotary. And we're sharing the major steps here, and you're going to get copies of this slide. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but one of the things I want to point out is number 6. When you do the assessment, you collect and analyze the data, you got to take action. It'll point you to where you need to be, what you need to do. Then it's up to the club to take advantage of that. And then you have an ability to focus your resources in an area that's really gonna give you the best chance of generating some results. And Nadezha's been talking about expanding your reach, but scheduled programming by diverse groups and individuals. In my 3 years in Rotary, most of the presentations, 95, 98%, come from the same groups of people, typically white, mostly male. And there are issues in other communities that I'm aware of. I'm on about 6 different boards in the area that Rotarians don't get to hear about because people from those groups aren't invited in to talk. And we don't go out to them to find out what those needs are. So doing that fits right in with what Rotary is all about. And I think Dewan say this: diversity is every member's responsibility, just like membership is every member's responsibility. So it's not up to the Black person to bring in a Black person, or the Jewish person to bring in another Jewish person. Everybody needs to be responsible for bringing in people who are different and who serve to broaden our diversity. What now? Okay, when you go to your club, you want to talk about diversity, and some of it's not easy. Some clubs are still having a hard time dealing with what's happening in our country around law enforcement and communities of color. You want to work with local organizations that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. Include diverse members to take on leadership positions. Encourage club members to take a building diversity course that's offered in the Rotary Learning Center. And it would be helpful to create a community advisory board, because you get to learn more about what's happening in your community, in various parts of your community where you may not be plugged in right now. Then we have a couple of tools, and we've provided these to Deborah and to Andy to be shared with you. And Nadej, you want to talk about that implicit bias test?
So it's a free test Harvard lets you take, and it goes through like you need at least 30 minutes to take it, but at the end it'll tell you what you have biases against. So that way, you know, like it might be what's a good example, Rick, of an implicit bias?
I know they look at religions.
Yes, religion, race, sex, the LGBTQ community. So it goes through a series of questions, and then at the end, it'll give you your results. So that way you're aware, because sometimes we're not aware. We don't have enough self-awareness to be like, and it might shock you. Like when I first took it, I was shocked. I was like, I have an implicit bias against people of color. No, I'm kidding. That did not happen. But it might really shock you. So it's free. It'll be a nice tool that you can give to someone that's easy to take. They can take it on their own time. It's private. They don't share their results with everyone. So that way you're learning more about yourself.
Okay, so now what's really important about diversity is don't bring people in and then tolerate them as different. We need to accept them as a part of being normal. So I don't look at my hand and tolerate it because it's different than my feet. They're both important, they're both critical. And so we need to do the same thing when we bring people into the club. And with that, we'll close, we'll be open to remarks. And Dej and I want you to know that we are available anytime, anywhere. We'll be happy to work with you and your clubs. And we're more than excited about this journey through Rotary. Thank you.
And we do not, listen, y'all don't know some of the questions I've received. And I take them all like, okay, that's cute, but no. So if you have questions, you're like, yeah, this might be dumb. And you're afraid to ask in this group or in a large group, just reach out to either of us. We're more than welcome to engage in conversations about diversity outside of a large forum. So that way, the more education you have, the more better equipped you are to help your club and to grow your club in a diverse way. So like Rick said, we're here for you.